Welcome back. This is Mr. Hassan's Maths channel. I'm now answering question number 21 from the May-June 2023 International GCSE Cambridge 0580 syllabus. And this is the paper 2 variant 3. And this question here is about algebraic fractions. We have to simplify this algebraic fraction. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a bit about, firstly, how do we simplify normal fractions, and then that will help us to understand what we do when we simplify this fraction. So for example, if I have a fraction something like, say, 18 over 24, and I want to simplify that. Okay, we know that this is not in the simplest form, and the reason we know that it's not in the simplest form because there are common factors in the numerator and the denominator. So for us to simplify this, what we do without really realizing it, without thinking about it in this way, is what we're actually doing is we try to factorize or partially factorize these numbers until we find like the highest common factor. So for example, we recognize that 6 is the highest common factor. So what we're actually doing is we're saying 18 is the same as 6 times 3, and 24 is the same as 6 times 4. And then we cancel out those factors, those common factors, and we're left with 3 over 4. And there's our simplified fraction. So without realizing it, you normally say, oh, we divide by 6 both of these, and we end up with 3 over 4. Why did we divide by 6? This is the reason why we divided by 6. Basically, we have factorized the numerator, we have factorized the denominator, and we have cancelled out the highest common factor, which is 6. All right, so when we're dealing with algebraic fractions, it's exactly the same principles, foundations upon what this is built is the same foundations and principles upon which simplifying algebraic fractions is. So what you can't do, I can't say, all right, let's cancel out the x squared. That's what some people do. I'll cancel out the x squared and the x squared. No, you can't do that because this x squared is not a factor of the whole numerator, and this x squared is not a factor of the whole denominator. You can't cancel them out unless they're factors. So what we have to do is we have to factorize the numerator and we have to factorize the denominator. Now the denominator is the simpler one to factorize, and we can recognize this as a difference of two squares. We have a perfect square minus another perfect square. 4 is a perfect square number. X squared is a perfect square number. Any letter with an even power is considered a perfect square term. And 9 is a perfect square, and there's a minus sign between them. Very important, can't be a plus, has to be a minus between them. We have a difference of two squares, which then factorizes to two brackets, one with a plus sign in it, one with a minus sign in it. It doesn't matter which way you write them down, but then I write the square root of these terms inside the bracket. So instead of 4x squared, I put 2x, because that's the square root of 4x squared. Instead of 9, I put 3, so I have 2x plus 3 and 2x minus 3. That is how this factorizes. Then we got 2x squared plus 5x minus 12. Now to factorize this, I'm going to do this on the side to make it a bit less, writing. So I'm going to take 2x squared plus 5x minus 12. So what we're going to do here, basically, because you have a number in this place here, instead of the x squared, it's not a 1x squared, we can't just put it into two brackets that easily. I mean, it's possible to guess and check and do it, but we have to split the middle term. Now, there's different ways of doing this. I like to split the middle term in this particular way, which I'm going to illustrate here. So I like to make like this window, as my students call it sometimes. And I put the x squared term in the top left and the constant term in the bottom right. And then I think to myself that I need to find two numbers. These two numbers here, their product must be the same as the product of these two. So the product must be negative 24x squared. And the sum must be the same as the middle term here, which is positive 5x. So thinking of all the ways of getting 24 as a product, you've got like 24 times 1. All right, it's a negative product, so there'll be different signs. One will be positive, one will be negative. They'll have different signs. That's not going to give us a 5 when I add them together. You'll end up with something 23, okay? Because you're adding them together with different signs, so we like the difference. We've got 12 times 2. That gives me 10 as a difference. We want 5 as a difference. We've got 8 times 3, and that's the one we're looking for. 8 times 3 is 24, and the difference between 8 and 3 is 5. So when they have different signs, they'll add up to something with 5. We want a positive 5, so the 8x must be positive, and the 3x must be negative. The next step is to take these two terms here and look for the highest common factor, which is basically x. Then after that, once you've done that, the rest is very simple. You have x times 2x squared gives me 2x. X times minus 3x gives you minus 3. X times minus 3 gives you minus 3x, sorry. Okay, so x times something gives me 2x squared, that must be 2x. X times something gives me minus 3x, that must be minus 3. 2x times something gives me 8x, that's going to give me plus 4. 4 times 2 is 8. So we're left with 2x minus 3 times x plus 4. Now we can see, are there any common factors? Well, yes, there are. You have 2x minus 3 and 2x minus 3. These are common factors which I can then cancel out. So I'm left with x plus 4 over 2x plus 3. So there's my final answer, x plus 4 over 2x plus 3. And that's how you solve this question. That's how you simplify these algebraic fractions, okay, by factorizing and then cancelling out the common factors if there are any. Okay, if there are any, you cancel them out. Normally you will have one in a question like this, and then you cancel them out, you get your answer. And there we have it. That's the answer to this question. And we could have checked to see, are we correct with this factorizing? 2x squared plus 8x minus 3x, that's going to be plus 5x minus 12. So that's correct, and we have our answer. That's the answer for 21. And other questions from this particular paper will be found in the playlist that will appear in this section over here. Other questions from this topic of algebraic expressions will be found in the playlist over here. Okay, and I'll put this also on the playlist for factorizing. And you can subscribe to my channel by clicking the link that will appear in this section. Thank you for watching and see you soon.